Hello, and welcome to Adulthood is a Project, the show where two sisters discuss the lessons learned and growth earned through the realities of life. I'm Charlie, and this is my sister Casey, and we're your hosts.
In today's episode, we will give you an introduction to ourselves and discuss self-improvement. We'll explore the reasons we chose to do it and how we implement the lessons learned. This will give you the ins and outs of adulthood is a project. Let's get started.
So, like I said, we're your hosts, Charlie and K.C. We're sisters and we're best friends. We have spent our whole lives best friends. Let me tell you about my best friend. We've spent our whole lives discussing with each other the ins and outs of life, bouncing thoughts around to help guide each other through the fun and sometimes frustrating parts of adulthood.
Yeah, and in sharing our wins and failures with each other, and through lots of laughter, we figured out that we aren't the only ones with these same thoughts. And we decided to share our ever-evolving journey with you, our listeners, in the hopes that we can give you some inspiration or a good dose of humor to take on and even start to enjoy adulthood.
We're definitely trying to focus on that good sense of humor because that's what gets us through those days sometimes.
It certainly is. And throughout our episodes, you will hear us mention our family. It's large and blended with a total of 7 of us siblings, which, I mean, technically, I guess we're right in the middle, but really, I'm the baby.
You definitely act like you're the baby of the family.
Because I'm the baby. And we have, well, I guess 10 nieces and nephews, but only 8 for me because 2 of those are my own kids. We have 6.
So I have 10 nieces and nephews.
You do. But that's because you don't have any kids of your own.
I know, thankfully.
Should we talk now about how much of a disappointment you are to our mother?
What?
How much of a disappointment you are to our mother?
Never giving her grandkids. Yes, I did. Definitely nailed that one on our side of the family. Someone had to do it, damn it.
Yes. Well, thanks. Thank you for being the black sheep on that one.
Yeah, well, I just appreciate that my sisters like sex so much, and my brother, that I got 10 nieces and nephews. Like, I didn't need to have my own because you guys just kept popping them out.
Yeah. We had to make up for your failures.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Teamwork, making mom's dream work. Yeah. So our parents are divorced. They are both remarried. Casey lives in Oklahoma. I live in Arizona.
I live in a travel trailer, and Charlie has her own house.
Yes. Yeah. I've lived in for a very long time now, like 13, 14 years. I've been here a hot minute. I like it, though.
Yeah.
And we're really similar in our thinking about lives and, like, I don't know how to handle a lot of stuff, but we are so different in who we are day to day. Like, Casey's a complete introvert and I'm completely outgoing as can be.
Yeah, and also our spirituality, it differs in that I lean on saying I trust in God, I'm a Christian, and Charlie leans on she trusts in the universe. That's kind of just where she lands on things. And
yeah, I'm more like spiritual instead of I don't know, biblical. That's not the right word, but I just more on the spiritual side of things instead of the organized religion side of things.
Right. And I would say in that, though, I wouldn't say I'm a big fan of the organized religion. I just am a big fan of God.
That's true. You're not. Yeah. Well, so. I believe I am God, so you're my biggest fan. That's for a whole other episode to get into about spiritual beliefs, because mine are a little wacky, and I'm okay with that. I know where I stand, and I know what I believe, and I'm good with it. And as does Casey, which we can take those two different viewpoints of viewing things, like whether it be universe or God, and we can view them so differently and still come to like awesome agreements on like how life works or what's happening to us or the best way to like go about that or take a lesson from it. And it's cool to kind of mix those two things together and not just rely on, oh, this one straight way of thinking is the only way of thinking. So with both of us having an open mind, I think that makes it a lot easier to navigate some of the differences of life that could go on too.
Yeah, and I think what's really important is that we're both respectful of each other and each other's beliefs, and we don't try to force anything on each other, but we can just talk openly with each other about, say if I said, oh, I've been praying about something, Charlie's not going to make fun of me about that. She's just going to be like, oh, okay.
Exactly. And then she's like, hey, can you pray on this? So I'm like, I'm going to send you some good vibes because that's kind of what I think, but that's my view of praying. Whereas I'm like, man, send me some positive thoughts in case, like, dude, I'll throw you in my prayers. So in having that openness and that, like you said, the consideration for each other can help work through a lot of different ways of thinking through the stuff too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then also we have both been married and divorced twice ourselves.
Yay.
Yay, marriage.
We're trying to set a new family record, but our dad hit 5, and I don't know if either of us are ever going to get there.
We are definitely not gonna get there.
Would agree. I'd rather not set that family record.
Maybe I'll go down to the strip club and see if I can find number 3.
I think that's where number 3s hang out at usually, or work.
That's right.
Oh man, I will say though, through my divorces, I just got the opportunity to just better my life. Like I got the opportunity to learn from them, grow from them, and move on. Again, back to that. I don't have any kids. I am free. I am single, and I can do like my own jam of what I want to do. K.C, on the other hand,
I added kids and grandkids to my world, so
yeah.
So it's a lot of fun. Obviously I also took the time and bettered my life and things through that. But well, if you really think about it though, I was a stepmom before I was ever a mom. And
Yeah, that's true.
So I've added stepkids. I would say though, I don't ever take any kind of credit for raising any of those stepkids because I definitely took very much a step back because they had parents. They had parents that were raising them. And
right, they had parents that were involved in raising them. You just got to be an extra person that loved them and could support them through their growth.
Very much so. And at this point, they're all adults, and every last one of them knows if they need anything, all they got to do is pick up the phone and give me a call. I'm there. And then also I have 3 grandkids, so that's fun. I'm the hot grandma.
A gilf.
I'm a total gilf.
That's a thing. I don't know if I'm not in a loop like that anymore.
I believe it is.
You're going to make it a thing if it's not. Let's put it that way. Oh, man.
It's just shocked whenever I show up and I'm like, yeah, I'm here for my grandkids. They're like, what? These are yours? That's right. Bring them on.
So our childhood is a little different than your contemporary childhood, I should say. But it definitely led us to taking on a dark sense of humor that has definitely continued into adulthood. Our kind of thing is it too soon to make a joke? And our answer is no, never. Go ahead. What's the joke? I'm probably already thinking it.
Yes. And I know oftentimes for me, it's just you are my safe space to make the joke. So whenever something completely ridiculous has happened, I'm like, man, I really need to call Charlie because I have this super hilarious thing to say. And I don't know who else to say it to.
Like my mind went somewhere real dark, and I don't know who else is going to accept that part of me. So I call K.C. For sure. God, thank God we have each other, man. I tell you that.
Yes, indeed.
And us having each other makes us think that you all need a little dose of us too.
Who doesn't need a dose of us?
Exactly.
So on our podcast, we're going to be discussing some serious topics and also some fun topics. We're going to range from emotional manipulation to checking reviews. You'll get our insight on these subjects along with the lessons that we learned or that we are still working on.
Oh, yeah, and some of them are lessons that take a lot of different levels to uncover all of. I will definitely say one of my favorite things and a big part of what got us wanting to do this podcast is self-improvement. For me, I've always been working on it. However, I don't think I ever fully understood what I was doing, nor did I take it seriously until about 8 years ago when my last marriage ended and I found myself in a really depressed state. And I realized I didn't want to live like that anymore. I was just, down. Every day just seemed like I was just stuck in a rut and I wasn't enjoying life. I wasn't finding joy in anything. And I hit a point where I was like, I don't want to keep doing this. And so I just started looking at self-improvement.
Yeah, that one will give you a little kick in the rear.
Yeah, and don't worry, we're going to have an episode on that in the future.
I would say for me, a lot of times I didn't even realize that what I was doing was self-improvement. I think the first time I can really even remember doing something intentionally to better myself would have been whenever I found out I was pregnant. And at that point, Jay Bird and I sat down and had one of those conversations about, hey, our parents, I mean, obviously they raised us and we're decent humans, but we didn't necessarily want to do it the same way. We wanted to do it a little bit differently. And so we had to sit down and have that talk about what did we want to be different about our parents, or what did we want to do the same as our parents. And that was the first time I can remember intentionally doing something, but at no point did I realize it was self-improvement until much later.
Think that happens. Yeah, I think at a young age, you don't always realize that you're doing self-improvement. You just, something inside you is like, I don't want to do that this way. So what's a better way to do it? And so I think we are all constantly doing it, but not always realizing it until, like you said, you hit a point at some point in your life where you're like, wait, I want to intentionally do this. So I think that came out kind of wrong, but like there hit a point for me where I was doing this stuff a lot, in my younger years as well. But there hit a point, like I said, after that last divorce where I intentionally chose to make that change in myself. And that made a huge difference in how I chose to look at stuff.
Yes, and I would say I definitely have been much more intentionally on my personal growth over the last, I would say, 3 years after I had a lot of things happen. Life took me for a little spin. And so it was at that point where I was like, oh my goodness, I want to make sure that I'm doing, like, not that I've wasted, I don't think I had wasted all these years, but I realized, oh my goodness, I just want my life to be so much more enjoyable.
Yeah. My journey definitely got started through the book, The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. And I still to this day reread that book like every probably couple of years, and I get new insights. Like when I first picked it up is what got me thinking about being intentional about my self-improvement and trying to get real lessons out of what I was going through and how I was handling it.
Yeah, I have read that one book. It's mostly just out of curiosity for you that I read it.
I talk about it a lot. I love that book.
Yeah, it didn't do a whole lot for me personally, but that's fine. It's doing what it needs to do for you. I would say my growth more comes from, and I don't want this to sound silly, but with my kids, I just look at them and I know what kind of life I want them to have. And so I have constantly just grown through trying to teach them life lessons. I'm trying to help them be the better people and the adults that I want to see them be.
Yeah, I could see that, like wanting to be that example for them, right? And show them stuff that if you'd learned it a different way or earlier in life, you could have handled it a different way. So you're like, oh, if I can learn it now, I want to be able to show my kids that.
Yeah.
Well, I just had to do things for myself because, no kids over here.
But but like I said though, also like so often I wasn't realizing that I was focusing on like improving myself as much as I thought, oh, I'm just trying to improve my kids and make their lives better or whatever. I didn't realize I was improving my own life and making myself a better version of myself, or trying to understand myself better through explaining to my kids something such as, maybe why we shouldn't have sex when we're 15.
What? I learned that lesson from my sisters.
Yeah, I'm here to teach these lessons, but in exploring that with my own kids and explaining to them like, hey, here's the deal, and making sure they understood, well, then I'm self-reflecting and understanding that part of myself, but I didn't realize I was doing it for myself.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And I think it, in growing up and how we have stuff going on when you and I would call or talk to each other about whatever was going on or what might be bothering us, like we were doing self-improvement then. We just didn't know it. We were just someone's person to share stuff with, but we would take an approach to that to help the other person, not to condemn them, not to make them feel bad about a decision that might have been made or something that would have happened to them. It was just like, oh, dang, dude, I'm sure that hurts, or I'm sure that sucks. Like, but you could always look at the bright side, or you could look at it this way and learn something from it. And I think in doing that, we've, been doing self-improvement our whole lives. And like you said, just didn't always realize that's what it was.
Yeah, I can see that very much so.
So the top 5 reasons people want to do self-improvement is either personal growth, they want to increase their own confidence, they want to improve mental health, fulfillment of goals and passions, or they just want to have better relationships. I would say for both of us, I would say it's better relationships and personal growth. I don't know. That increased confidence for myself has been a big one too, personally, but
yeah, you really needed that. I was born with a lot of it.
You were. It must be that baby thing of yours. That whole stuck in the middle thing for me had me thinking that I need a little more confidence in who I was as a person and what I was bringing to the table. So
that I've always just known that I'm bringing a lot to the table because I'm K.C. What else do you
have
need?
always felt that way, haven't you?
I have.
If only I'd gotten a little bit of your confidence throughout life. I think I've probably always turned to you to get my confidence. Like, how do you do that, man? But I will say everyone has their own journey they need to take. So for me, it was a book. For you, it was your kids. So something that's going to affect me or make me want to do better is not going to be the same thing that pushes you and wants you to do better. And same with all of us, right? It could be kids, it could be trying to change your family dynamics or your family situation or just improve your lot in life. So we all have different reasons that lead us to it. But I think it's very rare of a person to go through life and not at some point want to do some self-improvement, whether they view it as self-improvement or just bettering themselves or learning a lesson. In a general sense of people in life, I think most people do want to improve and learn lessons to make their life easier as they go, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to think so. Trust me, if you're not learning from the past, you are bound to repeat it, and you're just going to keep getting the same lessons over and over and over until you get it figured out. So you might as well buckle up, do the work, and learn the lesson the first time. There's no need to be hard-headed about these things.
Yeah, and man, there are a handful of life lessons I never want to have to learn again. So I want to get everything I can the first time out of them so I don't have to repeat them a second time or even a third time in some of my cases.
Yes, I absolutely know how that goes. I know for me, it's just we always want to make sure we find a way to enjoy personal growth as we learn life lessons and put them into action. Making sure that we can take the enjoyment out of the lesson, because a lot of those lessons are hard ones. Just divorce, for example, that's a hard lesson, and being able to find the joy in it at some point. Which, I mean, let's face it, that second one goes down a lot smoother and a lot more
Same.
joyful.
Same.
There's just a lot more joy in that second one where you're just like,
So we really learned from the first ones, and we're able to take that second one and maybe get the lesson a little bit quicker. So it got to be smoother. We could get to the joy part of it faster.
a lot faster on that second go round.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been a happy-go-lucky, if you will, type of personality, but there was a lot of years that I spent with the attitude of, man, life is just kicking me down. You get in this depressed state, and that just leads to a cycle of, if any of our listeners have ever gone through depression, which I think almost everyone has gone through some form of it, it can be a really repetitive cycle. And at some point, I was like, I don't want to live like that, like we were kind of saying earlier. And so I found a way, and it wasn't easy by any means, but to start actually looking forward to what's the next lesson? Where are we going to go with this one? Like, what am I going to learn next? Because that didn't kick my ass enough. I'm ready for something new.
Yeah. And I would say, I think also, I know, especially in our younger years, we both, and I know we've had those discussions where I would tell you, like, oh, things feel like they're going really well right now. So I'm just waiting for the shoe to drop. I'm waiting for a shoe to drop. So it didn't matter if things were going well in my life. I always just assumed something bad is coming my way because I can't be having things going this good. And I do not feel that way anymore. Now, whenever I have things going good, I'm like, woohoo! We're doing good. And then when something bad does happen, I'm not sitting there saying, here it comes, life's just screwing me again. And I constantly felt that when I was younger, just constantly just, oh my goodness, life can't quit screwing me over. Life's always messing with me. And it wasn't until I wanted to say, I don't want life to happen to me. I want to make life happen for me, that I could make that switch over.
Yes. Now, when life is going good for me, my first question to the universe is, how much better can it get? Like, how much better can it get? How much more fun are we going to have? I don't expect it to just turn bad. I expect it to just keep getting better. And even if I'm having a bad day, I'm like, okay, well, it can get better, right? Okay, it sure can. And instead of dwelling on the what's next or how bad is this going to be, like, it's not always easy, but it can be done. And I like to look at it that way now of what is next? How much better? Like, how much longer this time around can I stay on this positive cycle? Like, that positive cycle for me used to sometime last for like a week, and then I'd have just a few normal weeks, and there were just average. Okay, a lot of normal weeks are average. And then I'd have one really good week. And then I'd have a really crappy week. And now when I'm having a really good week, that really good week has turned into, I'm having a really good month. And this last time, I had a really good 2 months. And so this time I'm like, ooh, how much longer can we keep it going this time? Like, I made it to 2 months. Let's see if I can hit 4 this time. Why not?
Yeah. And I know for me now, when I'm having a rough day or something just random happens for me at work or with anything, I don't automatically just screw this whole day. I like, okay, well, this has happened and that's okay. Let's take it and move forward.
Right. Because by no means do we not both have bad days, right? It's life. Some days are better than others. That's for sure. But I definitely find myself being able to keep the positive momentum going and focus on that negative for just a few, maybe an hour, and then I can be like, okay, now change your thought process. Like, you had a minute, work through it, and now let's move on to the next happy thought you can have for the day, because I don't want that to overtake my whole day.
Yeah, and I think that's a big reason for us with wanting to start this podcast, is just trying to help other people get to that point where they can hopefully take the negative that happens and get themselves refocused and find the positive. Because I know a lot of times for me, say I have a day at work or something, as long as I can make a joke about it, or I can, if I call you and I very much, am sarcastic about something that has happened, that can just help me just kind of clear my head and bring it back around to having a better attitude towards what's going on.
Right. But I will say, yeah, now we can take those bad days or bad moments, get them off our chest, talk about them, and then just move on, right? Like, don't let the whole thing ruin your whole day or your whole week or your whole month. Like, it ruins an hour. It's fine. Let's keep moving on, right? And look at the positive. And we just really want to be able to share that with other people, get other people in that same mindset and that same growth cycle, so that those bad days don't turn into bad weeks, bad months, bad years. Let it be the bad 20 minutes it was, and let's move past it and just spread some joy out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that is our goal here. And so we're just going to be bringing you as much humor as we can about life and some positive, upbeat energy. You might find our sense of humor isn't always positive. It's a little dark. But hey, if that's what you're here for,
jump on board. There's a lot more where that came from. Oh, man. But you know what? In all that self-growth, like, we've definitely found a way to better understand ourselves, and that helps us when we're also trying to deal with other people in our lives.
Very much so. I would say it also helps me try to be more patient with other people sometimes, not always. I'll be the first to admit I'm not the most empathetic individual. So
no. Oh, we might want to mention we like sarcasm.
Yeah. So I'm not always the most empathetic person. However, I would tell you, growing myself and getting those lessons, I do try to be a little more, I would say, lenient towards people, more grace-filled towards people whenever I can see they're just possibly going through something.
I think grace is a great word there, because I know I have to use it with myself even. I found a way to give myself more grace when I'm working through something and taking that time. And so, yeah, in doing so, I can find myself having more grace with other people who might not be at the same level or thought process that I am. And that's okay. We're all on our own journey.
Yeah, and it is extremely helpful whenever, for example, I do work at a restaurant and I work with a lot of younger girls. And sometimes I think, oh my goodness. But then I remember, when I was in my 20s, I obviously didn't have all the same life experience and I didn't have all the growth that I have now. So I probably had the same issues or whatever that kind of maybe drive me crazy with some of the younger girls at work every once in a while.
Yeah. And so to take what we've learned and be able to put that into practice, and then hopefully share that with others, like when you have the younger kids you work with, or you, our audience, that we can share it with, that's a great goal in life, right? If you can take something and help someone else learn it or understand a lesson, that's what it's all about. We're all here to help each other. I would definitely say our lesson learned and growth earned on this. If you can find a way to take the lessons that life offers you, enjoy and even look forward to them while you implement what you learned in your daily life, well, life just continues to get more fun and be more enjoyable for you.
Yes, and we will be releasing new episodes every 2 weeks. We're excited to start this journey. In our next episode, we're going to be discussing strong, independent women, and you're going to get our hot take on that. Thank you for listening. Yes. Until next time, go out there and be your favorite self.
And if you have a topic you'd like us to discuss in a future episode, send us an email at adulthoodisaproject@gmail.com. Until next time.